He has a lot of responsibilities. He's one of the top echelon underneath the mayor for the city. His duties include administering the sewer department, municipal utilities, street department, handling the POs associated with it, the purchase orders. He's a member of what's called the Board of Control. At the time, there were only two members, the defendant and Mayor Fulton. They would approve purchase orders that were over $5,000 and up to $15,000. Anything over $15,000 had to go to City Council. The defendant, also a Safety Service Director, was basically the boss of the police department. He didn't do anything with investigations, but he disciplined, he hired, he fired, and that relationship was well known. The defendant had an obligation, based upon his duties and position, to act in the best interest of the city, to not put his personal agenda in front of that of the city's. But the defendant's employees entered into an unlawful interest in a public contract. Specifically, Doug Johnson, the sewer department superintendent, rented his own equipment to the city. There will be no dispute that Doug Johnson was guilty of that crime. That will be stipulated to. The defendant's problem was that when the investigation began in June of 2003 and into October of 2003, he was not the target. See, this all comes to pass in November of 2002 when Doug Johnson takes his equipment, rents it to the city, something you can't do as a city public official. He receives $30,000 worth of money from the city. There are purchase orders totaling $30,000. There are purchase orders totaling $30,000 that are paid through J.N. Grills, the name he put the equipment through so that it wouldn't look so bad, and collected by Doug Johnson through his friend, John Grills, somebody that did do business with the city. The defendant approved it at the Board of Control. There are emails you'll see from November 13th, 2002 saying, from Charlie Hoffer, the Director of Municipal Utilities, saying he wants to rent this from J.N. Grills through a company Doug Johnson is associated with. But see, Doug Johnson got a little more cavalier in how he did business. He decided also that it was okay to use city employees to move the equipment for private jobs. And he went too far in April of 2003. He went far enough that when he was digging a private basement for another city employee, he had other city employees move that equipment to Dennis Shawver, the city employee's property, to dig the basement with city trucks, city trailers, and paid them overtime. And that started the ball rolling. As Mr. Shawver said, that ain't right. Something's wrong here. In September of 2003, Lieutenant Poley was assigned to the case. He at that time is the head of the Detective Bureau. And he undertakes to call the Ethics Commission to begin with and finds out that no, this doesn't look right. In October of 2003, Lieutenant Poley goes to see John Grills, the name who the checks from the city went through, to see the equipment, to see if he owns them at this point. He is not targeting the defendant in any way, shape, or form at that point. He's not even considering the defendant in any way, shape, or form. That's a Saturday that Lieutenant Poley goes to see John Grills. That Monday morning, following Monday morning, unsolicited, the defendant intervened, called up Lieutenant Poley first thing in the morning and said, "Why are you looking into this? I checked into this. It's fine. The Ohio Ethics Commission says it's fine. I knew Doug Johnson owned the equipment." That's what the evidence will show you. Nobody. And to say that this is a misstatement, like was talked about in voir dire, that sometimes you get the dates wrong and how things went and you go look at it. No, that's not what the evidence is going to show in this case. The evidence is going to show that the defendant sought out underlings, a lieutenant, somebody he would be in charge of, technically, as the boss of the police department, and basically called off the investigation. And they were lies. Because on November 19th, 2003, the defendant